Hi, it's Joe Mazumdar of Exploration Insights at the March 2021 PDAC version of the Virtual Metals Investment Forum. And with me today, I've got Joe Hamilton. He's the president, CEO, and a director of Unigold Inc., which UGD on the venture, and I believe they also have an OTC ticker. I'm not familiar with the number, the lettering. But Joe, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Joe.
Okay, and your asset, your portfolio, your land package, the NATA concession is in the Dominican Republic in the Caribbean. And so what's attractive about that area?
Well, Joe, first things, the Dominican Republic is the largest economy in Central America and the Caribbean as well. So it's a diversified economy. It's a great place to do work, lots of support, easy to get things in and out of the country, a good banking system, a good court system, peaceful transition of government. It's just a great place to do work. There's skilled labor, there's good education in the workforce. And not only that, but let's keep in mind that the world's third largest gold mine is also in the Dominican Republic, Pueblo Viejo, which is, a tier one asset for Barrick and Newmont.
Right, and so your land package is located more in the north and the central part of the country, and so you've got quite a big concession. And so, what are you finding on your ground there?
Well, that's right, Joe. The NATA concession that we own is 20,000 hectares. It's the largest single exploration concession. There's a couple of parts to it. Up in the northwest, there's basaltic to ultramafic rocks, and in the south west, there is acid volcanics, part of an old island arc. We're finding epithermal mineralization in the island arc rocks, and that's overprinting a much older form of mineralization that's there as well. So there's multi-stage gold deposition in that area. We've identified 15 targets. We've spent most of our time on just 3 of them over the course of the last 10 years, bringing those up the value chain.
Right, and inside of what you're drilling 3 different types of, let's say, deposits there. And can you explain like what you're looking at? Because I recall that there's one event that brings a certain type of mineralization and one that overprints it, but also geometrically where they're located, whether it's near surface oxide or deeper. You're looking at these things differently depending where you are and what the mineralization is like.
Yeah, without going into too much geology speak, the first style of mineralization that we see are seafloor volcanogenic massive sulfide deposits, black smokers or chimneys, as it were. We do identify those in drill core. They're generally fairly low grade. They were sort of just the first style of mineralization. But as the island arc emerged out of the ocean, those systems and those hot springs, those underwater hot springs, seem to stay active, and they flooded some of the volcanic ash with some disseminated mineralization, which is younger than the original VMS. That disseminated mineralization runs pretty consistently between 1 and 2 grams of gold per ton. It's right at a contact between an andesite and a dacite. But then at some point, much later on, there's a younger form of epithermal mineralization that I think corresponds to when the volcanic island arc actually emerged from the sea and sort of became islands in the sea. And that style of mineralization is usually above water level. So we've got this epithermal mineralization that's much higher grade. It runs generally between 5 and 20 grams of gold per ton with appreciable silver and copper and zinc as well. And it's those high grade shoots that we're looking for. And then the final type of mineralization we find is because of the tropical weathering that is experienced, in the tropical latitudes, the material that's at surface generally weathers and turns into an oxide style of mineralization. So we've got this, extremely young oxide, which is the target of a PFS right now, a very easy, low-hanging fruit to go after, small capital project. And then we've got high-grade mineralization, and that's surrounded by a cloud of lower-grade mineralization. So multiple events, which is, from a geologist standpoint, exactly what you're looking for when you're trying to find world-class mines, is to ensure that you've got multiple events and not just a single mineralizing event.
Yeah, I would encourage people to get a better idea of the deposit styles and what it looks like by checking out the presentation of Unigold and the long section. So, if I would again encourage people to look at the presentation on Unigold's website, where they show a long section of the different styles of mineralization and what they're looking for, whether it's a open pit oxide, open pit sulfide, and also the deep underground. Right now, Joe, what have you established in terms of resource, in terms of these different deposit styles?
The last resource estimate we put out, Joe, was in 2013 regarding the sulfides. We've done about 35,000 meters of drilling since then. So we're updating that resource estimate now. That should be out at the beginning of April, late March of this year. But what we had in 2013 was about 2 million ounces in a pit constrained resource. It ran about 1.6, 1.7 grams of gold per ton. But since that time, that extra drilling has concentrated on the high grade zones, the epithermal overprint. So this resource estimate we're putting out, I think, will show not just more ounces, but certainly higher grade and more tons as well. And what we're concentrating on right now with the drilling, we've got 4 drills active. What we're concentrating on is expanding those high grade zones, because we think that's going to result in a project that is a smaller environmental footprint than a big open pit with a lot of waste piles and large tailings facilities. We think the underground mine may be the way to approach it, but we just want to ensure that we've got sufficient material. So that's what we're concentrating on right now.
Right, and the open pit could be a significant, resource, but it might not be for you to build. It might be, it would take maybe a bigger company with a longer term plan to actually implement this. Is that correct?
Well, there's no question that a large open pit project, 25,000 tons per day through a concentrator, would cost on the order of $1 billion these days. For a small company like ourselves, while that, may be achievable, other companies have done it. It's really sort of a mid-tier to a tier 1 type of asset. So larger companies may look at that, but we can control our own fate, and we can process gold on site from the high grade epithermal material, and it's great from an underground mining perspective. Seems to be subvertical, fairly thick intercepts, 10 meters to 30 meters thick. So it should loan itself quite nicely to underground mining.
And recently, just this week, you put out a couple of holes that hit a new zone of mineralization that's unlike what you've hit before, because most of what you've been hitting is associated with massive sulfides, a lot of pyrite, but this has got very little sulfides.
Yeah, the Candelones area continues to surprise with, every drill hole we put into it. We're finding new information and new types of mineralization. But the 2 drill holes that we put out this week were from the eastern side of the pit. There's very little drilling to the east. These were the first 2 drill holes that were sort of set up about 100 meters to 300 meters away from the edge of the pit constrained resource. And they hit some new mineralization. It was blind mineralization we didn't expect to find. We were targeting deeper mineralization. We found this closer to surface. It's early stages, but it looks as if we may have another epithermal feeder. We found effectively 3 of them that we're quite sure of, a 4th one that's got a large amount of alteration. We're probing that one for grade, and then we found this one on the east. So the system is not, it's certainly not closed off, and we keep finding new mineralization as we're drilling. So that's exciting for us, and it's within sight of existing resources.
So we'll end it soon, but we just got to remind people that the Candelones and that area is one small portion of a larger concession, and some of what you're planning on doing as well is drilling, and I think you have drilled some more regional targets.
We just started into the regional work, and it's high risk exploration. Most of those targets are drill ready, so we're now at the point where we can go in and drill them. We've got about 14 or 15 targets we want to try to assess over the next 2 or 3 years. It's expensive and it's high risk, but the rewards can be huge. Certainly at Candelones, we've shown those systems are long lived and they're certainly well mineralized. Now the objective would be to try to find another one someplace else on the concession.
Okay, so just as a reminder, like now we will close it off. You are funded to deliver some significant catalysts over the next, let's say, 6 to almost 9 months. So what are they? If we could just review those.
Yeah, the most important thing as far as I'm concerned is the PFS on the oxides. I think that'll show that we have a viable project that we can move forward on a low capital basis. The next thing is the resource estimate on the sulfide portion of the deposit. I think we'll be able to show people that there's a market improvement in that on the way up from from the 2 million ounce mark where we were 7 years ago. And on top of that, I think we'll move a fair amount of that into measured and indicated, de-risking that project as well. So those two things should be out in the next 4 to 5 weeks. After that, we'll look at trade-off studies between open pit and underground for the sulfide portion of the deposit. We should be able to report on that in the second quarter. And then we should also be able to apply for a mining license in the second quarter using the PFS from the oxide. So all of those things are coming up in the next 4 or 5 months, and I think those are all going to be appreciable catalysts for the company.
Okay, thanks very much. And that's again Joe Hamilton, President, CEO, Director of Unigold Inc. That's exploring for gold in the Dominican Republic. And it's Joe Mazumdar, Exploration Insights at the March 2021 version of the Metals Investment Forum. Thank you for joining us, and hopefully that was helpful.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you.